It can be pretty hairy in the initial climb and your departure when ATC needs you to level off immediately because of a traffic conflict. Trying to get the GFC700 to level off in time can make the situation even worse. Here's another gotcha I see a lot when flying jets that have the GFC700 autopilot. It always happens when you get that last second level off from ATC. For example, let's say we are departing out of DuPage Airport near Chicago, and just as we pass through 9000, we get an instruction from ATC to level off at 10,000 for traffic. Watch what happens if we simply change our altitude pre-select to 10,000. Because we are climbing so fast, the GFC700 doesn't have enough time to perform a normal capture, and we end up overshooting our altitude by 380 feet. When that happens, trust me, you are not going to be ATC's favorite pilot. Now, the GFC700 will descend back down to and maintain 10,000, but that may not be quick enough for ATC. We have a trick that will help you deal with these last second level offs more effectively. Now, the altitude capture sequence on the GFC700 has a couple of layers to it, so let's break it down for you. Let's say we are climbing in a jet to a selected altitude of 15,000. Because the climb rate is so fast, the jet starts to level off pretty early. At approximately 13,500, Alt S mode will go green for the capture at 15,000.
And this starts a nice smooth capture process where the airplane starts pitching down at a ½ degree per second for a gentle level off.
Yeah, when you get to approximately 50 feet below your selected altitude, the GFC700 enters altitude hold mode and pitches to maintain the reference altitude. Let's take a look at what happens if you set the selected altitude at the last second. So here we are at 90,500 and we set the altitude pre-select to 10,000. Alt S immediately goes green, but the aircraft gets to 10,000 before it's able to pitch over. At this point, altitude hold mode goes green and will continue to pitch the airplane back down to the reference altitude of 10,000.
Unfortunately, while it's doing this, it can overshoot the selected altitude by as much as 500 feet, depending on how fast your airplane is climbing. So here's the cool part though. Altitude hold mode pitches over much more aggressively than the Alt S capture mode. In fact, it pitches over at around 2 degrees per second.
And we can take advantage of that behavior. Here's how. Pro tip number 2 is, when you're told by ATC to stop your climb, the first thing you do is you press the Alt button, and this will start an aggressive level off that we can adjust once the climb has been arrested. So here we are at 90,500 and ATC instructs us to stop the climb at 10,000. The first thing we do is press the Alt button to stop that climb, which immediately puts us in altitude hold mode with a reference altitude of 90,500, our current altitude.
And that's good. What it does is it gets the aircraft leveling off aggressively at 2 degrees per second, and we should end up level pretty close to our assigned altitude of 10,000. Now all we have to do is update our reference altitude to 10,000 so the aircraft will stay there.
There are a number of ways to update the reference altitude. One way to do this is to use the button that no one ever uses, the control wheel steering button. If you click it momentarily, it will capture the current altitude as the new reference altitude. Another way to do this is to turn the Alt mode off and then back on again by pressing the Alt button twice. When you turn Alt mode back on, it captures your current altitude as the new reference altitude.
You'll notice we didn't use altitude pre-select for this procedure at all. We pretty much manually captured 10,000. So once you have the aircraft under control, good airmanship dictates that you set your altitude pre-select to your assigned altitude.
For completeness, let's look at one more variation of this technique. So here we are at 90,500 and ATC has instructed us to stop the climb at 10,000. We press the Alt button to immediately begin the level off. As the aircraft is starting to level off, we can set our altitude pre-select to 10,000. Once we are leveling off, we press the VS button and pick a vertical speed that will get us to 10,000. At that point, Alt mode automatically goes active and we get the annunciator, Alt green. So let's take a look at some of these techniques in action. Here we are climbing through 9,400 feet. ATC says to us, stop the climb at 10,000. The first thing I do is hit the Alt button. I get Alt 9550. Notice the airplane is pitching down. Now what I'm going to do is hit the Alt button twice. I get a new reference altitude of 9990. Now I'm just going to adjust my altitude pre-select to 10,000. The aircraft is now settling back down to 9990, the reference altitude. So I'm going to need to fine-tune that. So in order to fine-tune it, all I'm going to do is go VS plus 100 feet. I call my annunciators out, VS plus 100. And now I have Alt green, Alt 10,000. So in conclusion, let's go over the pro tips one last time. Pro tip number 1 is check the annunciators before and after button pushes.
And pro tip number 2 is, when you're told to stop your climb, press that Alt button for an immediate level off.